Once again, this is Peter. Stand by for Crow. Crow's invited. I'm going to hook up my earbuds here. Or one of them. Does it look better with both of them or one of them? Yeah, just one. Mostly what I want is the microphone anyway. I want to keep one ear on the house. Oh, we got a watcher already. Crow, is that you? Crow wants to be in my video. Let's go, Crow. Come on. Okay. All right. Moved. Hey, Crow. I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I can see you. I can hear you. Yep. Can you hear me a little better? I put a headset on with a microphone because there was a bit of inequality in the output of our voices. So I know some of our listeners might appreciate it if they could hear both of us, I guess.
Yeah, that would probably be ideal.
Yeah. Okay, good. So I was going to start with the prayer today. Heavenly Father, bless the rural residents of my rural municipality. Bless the councillors and the reeve of my rural municipality. Bless the residents of the villages in my rural municipality. Bless the councillors and the mayors of the villages in my rural municipality. Bless the residents of the capital city of my province. Bless the city council and the mayor of the capital city of my province. Bless the MLAs and the premier of my province. Bless all of the people of my province. May we discern the truth, and may we have the courage to stand up for what is right. Bless the MPs and the Prime Minister of Canada. Bless all the people of Canada. May we discern the truth, and may we have the courage to stand up for what is right. Bless the Congress, Supreme Court, and President of the United States. Bless the people of all the people of the United States. May we discern the truth, and may we have the courage to stand up for what is right. Bless the leaders of all the countries of the world. And finally, Father, bless all the people of the world. May we discern the truth, and may we have the courage to stand up for what is right. Amen.
Amen. And I would add, God bless the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Let's see some heads explode over that one.
Yeah.
Because I don't care what anybody says. That guy sitting in the White House is not the President of the United States. If he was,
I've got a comment on that, but we'll let's do the do our little intro, and then we can get going here. Welcome everyone. I'm Peter,
and I'm Crow,
and this is P&K Q&A for February the 21st. And yeah, there was one thing that Biden talked about. I didn't get to watch it because I was going to do something else, and I don't know if the comments were on, they would have been turned off by now. I know they left them on for a few hours on some of them, and I had the perfect comment to leave. I said, "Thank you, Biden, for taking time out from your FBI interviews to address the nation," or something like that.
That's about right.
Glad the FBI gave you some time off.
That is like probably about right. So now I got my little political spiel out of the way. There's like, you might think that I'm a little whacked, but there is actually growing evidence that Trump is still the president of the United States. I mean, a few weeks ago, I would have been hesitant to say that, but the evidence is growing stronger and stronger every day that he's still the president. It's nuts, because even though he's not in D.C., guess who the governors are calling for advice to help? They're not calling Joe Biden. They're calling Mar-a-Lago is where they're calling. And Trump is more than happy to help. So the United States is kind of in a situation where there's two presidents. One that's sitting in the White House and that everybody in Washington worships, I guess. And then you have this other guy who is supposedly the former president of the United States, that governors and other state representatives are going and visiting him in person looking for advice on how to do things.
He set up, what do you call it, the office of the former president. Has that ever been done before, to your knowledge? Has that institute ever been created?
I don't think so. I think the normal course of action for former presidents is usually a foundation of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
That's usually the go-to. They create a foundation once they get out of office. They take donations, and then, which, as far as I'm concerned, these foundations are mainly designed for basically pay-to-play type scenarios, where, because even though a president might leave the office because they get voted out, it does not mean that they stop having power. Every president that leaves office has residual presidential powers unofficially that usually extend out 12 to 18 months from when they leave office. Because of the ongoing influence. Because
they're terribly influential. Just, the nature of that office. There's some residual.
Yeah, always.
Hi, Jerry.
Always residual. Well, Trump is probably the only president that has left office with a residual support from the military. And when you really think about that, in the end, is all that matters. No leader can rightfully rule any country, any territory, anything, without the support of the military, period. It's just, go back in history and look. Kings were always like, when kings wanted to do something, they always had to consult with their generals, because the generals had just as much power as the king. Not officially on paper, but unofficially. And the reason why is because their ranks are made up of just regular people. I mean, think about the people that sign up into the military. They're all just regular people coming from all walks of life, mostly from the lower end of society. And so, and they get an education. I've heard interviews from plenty of people that have gone into the military, dumb as fuck. Like, they freely admit, it's like, when I joined the military at 19 years old, I knew nothing. 4 years later, yeah, they are in a position now to like go out and open businesses. Some of them go and they further their education. They become more responsible as citizens. Those are, not talking about the ones that end up suffering from PTSD type, but for the most part, a lot of people come out of the military better off than what they were. depends on the personality, but for the most part, yeah, a lot of people come out of the military further ahead and in a better position to tackle life. And so when any leader has the support of the military, regular people, then it doesn't matter who's sitting in the chair. It's who the people follow that matters. And Trump had 70 million votes, which was several more than what Obama got, and he was the most popular president in history, apparently. And I don't believe for a second that Biden got 80 million votes. I mean, just go look at his Twitter feed, go look at his YouTube, go look at the views that he gets when a video is released. I mean, best one, President's Day. Joe gets
the only thing I had, the only precedent I remember for seeing a video that got more dislikes than likes was a YouTuber called TechRax. He's basically the opposite of Mr. Beast. He buys expensive tech and then Mr. Beast gives it away to people. This guy destroys it in interesting ways. He filled a swimming pool with dry ice and then got all these high-end game consoles and phones and stuff and threw them in the pool, and that got a hair more dislikes than likes. But that's the first time, this is 4 years ago, and that was the first time I ever saw that. But these videos you're talking about that have been put out by by the White House with Biden are we're seeing between 2 times and up to 10 times the dislikes.
Yep. The ratio
it's 10 times more dislikes than likes in some cases.
Oh yeah, the ratio is off the charts. I ain't ever seen anything like this in my life. And so it's just weird. It's like, if this guy is so popular, I mean, why hasn't everybody flooded to his accounts to hear what he has to say? I mean, that's what people do with good leaders. With bad leaders, well, you tend to ignore bad leaders. I mean, we've got a bad leader in Canada, and for the most part, we're doing the best we can to ignore him, other than to be like, when the hell are you going to call an election so that we can get rid of you? Which, don't hold your breath, because, I don't think that he got as many votes in the last election as he did. I think he barely made it across the finish line. So I think that Canada's voting system needs to be looked at, needs to be scrutinized a little bit, and but that's another issue. Let's move on to what we learned this week.
Yes, indeed. What did we learn this week?
This week was a mixed bag. The biggest thing we learned this week is that the Green New Deal is bullshit. And if you don't believe me, ask any Texan right now, and they will tell you, yeah, it's bullshit. They did a lot of shifting over to green energy, which green energy is not really green energy, people, especially when you take into account what it takes to build these things and the elements that go into them and how these elements are mined. So just a little bit of discernment. And the whole, all the renewable energy stuff, complete fail. Complete and utter failure. And now that has happened in Texas, people are starting to wake up, and they're starting to look at it, because then they found out all kinds of stuff again about renewable energies. They found out that the wind turbines are not reliable in sub-zero weather, and they freeze up. Now, to be fair, There is a winter package you can buy for these wind turbines, but they're quite expensive. And Texas didn't bother budgeting that in. But if that is all it takes to bring everything to a grinding halt, that's a little scary, actually. Because, I mean, what if that system fails here in the north, where all of our windmills have the winter package? What happens if 50% of them or even 10% of them fail? I mean, we could be in the shitter, especially if it happens in the middle of winter. And so getting an education on green renewable energy. So just another little step is all that is for us to learn.
Show, don't tell.
Yeah, show, don't tell.
Show, don't tell.
And plus, them getting the weather that they have, that's a curiosity too, especially when you know that China has the ability to manipulate weather patterns. Don't believe me? Go back in time and read about what they did for their Olympics. They wanted nice weather for their Olympics, and they manipulated the weather patterns within China to get that good weather. So you don't have to believe me. Go Google it, or ABC it, or whatever you want to say. So I'm not, I'm telling you a fact right there. So that was about maybe 3 or 4 years ago that they were able to do that within the continental China. And so what have they learned since then? I mean, technology only gets better, right? And then there was just a mixed bag of everything else that sort of kind of was going on in the background of things happening. Like, for example, a new piece of legislation that Trump introduced back in September has now resurfaced in the House. And when I heard this, I was like, wow, talk about laying a fucking trap. This piece of legislation involves Taiwan, okay? And in case anybody doesn't know, Taiwan considers themselves an independent and sovereign nation. China, however, begs to differ. And they basically have a mandate to bring China back bring Taiwan into China pretty much by any means necessary. And what this piece of legislation does is that it basically obligates the United States to assist Taiwan if China were to ever attack it, or anybody. And militarily assist, like full-on troops on the ground type assistance, not just piece of legislation. That's how it reads. And so that puts Biden in a bit of a bind because he's beholden to China. And if you don't believe me, just go look at the information that came off of Hunter's laptop. It's all there for the world to see. And if you think that the laptop is a hoax or a red herring, you need to look at it a little bit closer, because it's not. I mean, I personally think that Hunter Biden purposely forgot that laptop at Buddy's repair shop, hoping that it was going to make it into somebody's hands. Because I think that he's probably feeling quite trapped and probably feeling quite unappreciated. So not a very good combination of emotions. And I've seen this. in rich families
Yeah.
before, where
Yeah.
you have overbearing, wealthy parents that are overbearing, and the children are just like, you know what, fuck you, and they'll burn down the house as they walk out the front door. And I think that's what Hunter Biden did. He basically burned down the house as he walked out the front door and said, "Fuck you, Dad." And I could see that happening because if you look at the history, he was basically a bagman for his old man. Used him as a bagman. And so I'm sure that it was all fun and games at first, but then when you weren't allowed to do your own thing, what you want to do, I'm sure that there's some resentment came about there. Because there's a reason why Hunter became a drug addict. And usually people become drug addicts when they cannot live their best expression. Think about it. I mean, usually you think of, when you think of drug addicts, you think of like the low end of society, the impoverished end of society. And the same statement holds true. People that do not, who do not live their best expression will, feel something missing or feel cheated somehow, and they'll turn to drugs for comfort. It happens all the time. And that could be the scenario that we're looking at with Hunter Biden. And so that's what I think happened. What else did we have going on this week? Oh, man. There was so much. My head is still trying to sort it all out because there was so much that came out. But and then we have I came across this. This guy who who's doing prophecies, and I found this one really interesting because he's saying the same thing as we are saying, except he was saying this, and he said this back in January 7th is when this was posted. And just letting it load here, so just give it a second. And I was like,
and who was it? So is it somebody that we know or that I know?
I think his name is Mark Taylor. You know him? He's got a YouTube channel. He does he has his website is swordrescue.com. And this was interesting. And the thing is that it also goes along with what Clement was saying. I've sent you a few of Kim Clement's videos. Did you have a chance to watch them? Or at least the one that I sent recently? Yeah, what'd you think of that? That was crazy.
I watched part of the one that you just sent. Yeah.
Yeah, that is just, well, if you just watch like the first half of it, that's probably the best part of it. Wasn't that just crazy, all the shit that he was saying? And it's stuff that's coming out. So let's read this off to you.
Let's see here.
Okay. This one is entitled "Wolves in Sheep's Clothing." And the Spirit of God says, the prophets and priests that have prophesied by Baal can be considered a communist type system. It really is. When you look into Baal and communism, almost the same thing. Prophesied by Baal, committed adultery with Jezebel, prophesied dreams and visions from their own heart. So he's talking about false prophets. You build your kingdoms to bring glory to yourself versus bringing glory to me, God. You allow my little ones to be sacrificed on the altars of Moloch and Baal. this we know is going on for a fact, human trafficking stuff. For the names that mock me, Baal, for the sake of mammon, mammon being gifts of heaven, you walk around in your man-made kingdoms with your fancy titles and names and mock me, being served like kings, all while my little ones suffer. Did I not say in my word, Exodus 23:5, when you take a bribe, it blinds the eyes of the wise and perverts the words of the righteous. God has no use for bribes, by the way, and neither do I. Did I not say in my word, Deuteronomy 27:25, cursed is he who takes a bribe for the slaying of the innocent person. You took a bribe getting rich from the blood money of my little ones to remain silent. Even the Pharisees knew not to touch the money from Judas. You vipers, you prophets and priests refuse to speak the truth and stand on my words and the words I give you, because you fear man more than the living God, you cowards. Therefore you have one way out of this, and one way only. Give all your money and your assets away you have made under the Baal system. Divorce Baal, remarry me, repent and follow me. And then it goes into some other stuff, but yeah, basically this is what's coming down the pipe, and this is stuff that Clement.
And this is something this guy posted on Twitter or something.
Yeah, posted on his own website. Okay. So
right, okay.
So yeah, that's and I was looking at other stuff that he prophesized about, and I'll tell you, this guy is like, he basically has talked about a lot of the same things that I have talked about, and I was just like, wow, I can't believe that two people who have never met each other can be on the same page. And that's actually, to me, that's pretty amazing. It's kind of confirmation that we're kind of heading in the right direction. And
yeah,
because I mean, yeah, I mean, when you think about what we're doing here, I mean, what we're doing here is pretty remarkable in a way, because I mean, I really had no desire to do anything like this. I mean, if you hadn't have asked me the way that you did, you know, I would be doing something else, probably working on a vehicle or some damn thing. But you know, you asked, it's a good idea, and you know, and plus it was something that was like bothering me to do, but I really didn't want to do it. You know what I mean? Kind of like, you know, being like, kind of being like Jonah in a way. Being the Father's asking me to do something, and I'm just like, I really don't want to do it. And I'm kind of grateful to Peter that he kind of got me off the couch to do this. You know, because if it wasn't for you, Peter, I wouldn't be doing this, and well, I'd probably end up in the belly of a whale somewheres, figuratively.
Well, thank you.
But so that was something that was interesting that I came across, and I guess maybe I didn't do it as much justice when I heard it read out loud myself. Maybe, you know, some people have more powerful voices, but he's got a whole thing going on here with his different prophecies, and a lot of it is the same stuff that we talked about. And now I never even heard about this guy until yesterday. And so this is not something that I. So
yeah, so that's the guy you just sent me. It's a picture of him, and that's kind of audio or something for about what, 9 minutes.
yeah,
Just to be sure that we're on the same page, because that's the thing that I've listened to some of it. I'll listen to the rest of it and see. But yeah, he's like a prophet or something, a modern day prophet. He's saying all this stuff as if I don't know, as if he's the voice of God. It's like he's, yeah. When you read that, I thought it was from the Old Testament or something. It's like he's saying the stuff that God might or something.
well, the thing is,
What it seemed like to me.
Well, the thing is that Ken Clement, I came across to him about maybe 6, 7 months ago, and I listened to his prophecies, and I found them interesting. And I was like, oh, okay. So I kind of revisited his prophecies off and on. And then somewhere along the line, I think like 4 months ago, I found out while doing some research on this guy, I found out that he actually prophesied his own death. And that's when I was like, oh, okay. I said, time to pay attention, because who prophesizes their own death? I mean, really, right? And so he did. And I was like, oh, so that kind of made me, like I said, he got my attention, but I don't pay attention to a whole lot of what people say, because my attitude is most people are full of shit on a good day. And so I just, I always like, whenever somebody tells me something, I'm just like, I'm always like, it's always, for me, it's always 50-50, whether it's bullshit or not. Until something else comes along to push it either, a percentage one way or a percentage the other, I'll just remain neutral about the whole thing until I know something. And that, him prophesizing his own death was enough to push me to be like, okay, this guy might be legit. And the more I've looked into him, the more I feel as though he is legit. Because I don't know whether you have noticed it or not, but I certainly have. Discernment is getting better every week. Every week.
I think it must be, yeah.
Yeah. Every week, my discernment is getting better to the point to where it's just like, it only takes me like 5 seconds now to be like, you're full of shit. And and move on.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I think what's driving this engine is all the bullshit that's coming out of Washington. I think that I think that is what's driving it, because I'm like, because what we're getting is, I'm watching these people tell half truths, and then you watch them try to like talk their way and be like, we'll circle back on this, type thing. And so it's like, these people are all full of shit.
They're being more and more overt about their ignorance and their hypocrisy and their agenda and so on. And that's if you want irony, that's what's fueling the rise of discernment and
that's it. It's like, you can only bullshit people for so long before they begin to realize that they're being bullshitted. And so once you start recognizing the lies, you start to see it everywhere. It's like, you can't help but see it. And now, and then when you find like someone that's telling the truth, you're just like, oh, because it feels like a breath of fresh air. And they're not necessarily telling you something that you want to hear. You just, I don't know how to say it. You just begin to recognize it.
Yeah.
I'm surprised YouTube doesn't get on
I'm
our
talking
ass.
on. I know.
Smoking
well,
joints,
we got,
cigarettes.
6 subscribers and a few videos, and yeah. So I know. I don't know what. Maybe if we're lucky or unlucky, we'll find out what the threshold is, like how many subscribers we have, and I think it's because we're not monetized. Probably they tend to get on. If you're and I don't understand why they would, because isn't monetization making YouTube money?
They make money
they
either way.
They shouldn't care if we were trashing YouTube and trashing the. It doesn't. Yeah, I don't know.
Thing is,
oh yeah,
the whole system.
Just, yeah, go ahead.
The whole system needs to be revamped, because people should be able to make a healthy life, a healthy income off of social media with, with like 250,000 subscribers. You should be able to, because I mean, when you look at what news anchors are getting paid to do the news, some places don't even have 250,000 viewership. They have less. They got like maybe 100,000 viewers, and these people are making like $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 a year. And we're just talking like small stations, like your local station, right? We're not talking about the nationwide stuff. So these people are making a living doing their broadcast on TV. People should be able to do the same thing on social media. And and that's what would make the system way more fair. It would certainly eliminate like the job situation, the joblessness situation, or people who don't have or having trouble making an income. It's all, the infrastructure's there. It can be done so easily. And at first, people did make money from YouTube. They made a good living. But then these big rich companies, they decided that people were making too much money. And so they just started making restrictions to the point where people couldn't make a living anymore. And that is just wrong. And it's kind of it's kind of the same thing that happened with franchises. When they first came out, you could buy a franchise, you could make money, create yourself this wonderful lifestyle. Nowadays, you buy a franchise, you're just buying a job, is what you just bought. You didn't buy a lifestyle. You didn't buy a income. You bought a job, and they make sure that you're practically a slave to that franchise. And that's not the way it was before. Before, you could buy a franchise, get it up, make it successful, buy another one, get a manager to run the first one, and then, you have 2 franchises. Next thing you know, you're not even going into work. You've got managers doing your job for you. You can't do that with franchise. You've got to own half a dozen of them now before you can start getting into a lifestyle. Well, franchises are expensive. Yeah. And so they always ruin a good thing when they see us benefiting in some way. People don't understand. Like, these people hate us. They really, really hate us. And, the sooner that you understand that, then the sooner you'll know how to conduct yourself properly. It's like they just hate us, and I'm not entirely sure why they hate us. In a lodge in France, I'm not sure if it's in Paris. I don't think it's in Paris, but in a Masonic lodge into their hall, and up on the wall is this huge plaque in great big letters, and it says it's in Latin, but it translates out, "This place is terrible." What the hell? What the hell? What's that doing there? And why? I mean, getting into good questions, man. Sometimes we put pictures up because this one is absolutely hilarious. Okay. Did you, the Mars, another rover explorer landed on Mars this week. I forget,
Yes.
Okay, do you know the name of it?
Perseverance.
Perseverance. So, rover Perseverance touches down on Mars. There was video of the whole thing landing. And I'm like, who the fuck's holding this camera? It's like, it's on Mars, yeah. And you've got video of this thing coming down out of the sky from ground level and landing. I'm just like, who got there first and set up the camera? I mean, if it's CG, I mean, I have no doubt it's probably CGI for like effects and shit like that. But for the love of God, NASA, put that fucking shit on the bottom of the screen and be like, oh yeah, this is a simulation of the landing. We can't actually show, we cannot show you the actual landing because we're not there yet. Okay, I mean, help us out a little bit. I mean, and then, oh my God, and this one, oh my God, I just laughed my ass off. There's another rover on Mars, Jezero, Jazero, I think. Jezero.
Yeah, that's its landing site, I think.
Oh,
the Perseverance, and I watched the thing, the stream, or I didn't get to watch it live, but I watched it that evening, and basically as they were telling what the really interesting thing is, when they got the information that it was beginning its descent, since it takes 12 minutes for a signal to get from Mars to here, it had already reached the surface of Mars in whatever condition it was going to reach the surface. Anyway, but so they reported what it was doing and so on, as they received the information. But as I understand it, the rover Perseverance is landing in something called Jezero Crater.
Okay. Well,
Jezero is its destination.
Okay, so I got mixed up there. Too much information coming in all at once. So Jezero is the landing site.
Yes.
You type Jezero into Gematria, into a Gematria calculator, and one of the one of the solutions that comes up is, you are stupid.
You typed it into what now?
A Gematria.
A translator?
A Gematria is the process of changing the letters of an alphabet and giving them a numerical value.
Oh.
Oh,
Okay.
oh, numerology?
Okay.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I can get
Yeah.
into numerology. Oh, I've built a program a long time ago, a numerology program designed to map out your personality based on your name and birth date. And I used to charge like $10 to people to generate their profile, and
Mm-hmm.
it was actually pretty cool. I did a couple. Most people that I did it for came back and be like, "Wow, that was pretty fucking accurate." And I'd be like, "Yeah, I know. It's messed up that you can move numbers between the alphabet and then generate solutions."
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the solution that was generated from Jazero. Now,
Okay.
that actually reminds me of something else that I did this week, which just kind of amused the living shit right out of me. Okay, I was fooling around with the Q posts, and for some and the evening turned a bit of into a Which Way book. Remember the Which Way books? I think they still have them, actually. You would read the story so far, and then at the end, it would give you a choice. Do you want to go to the path to the left, or you want to take the path on the right? You take the path on the right, it says go to
yeah,
page.
I know them as Choose Your Own Adventure.
Oh, okay. Yeah, when I was a kid, they called them Which Way books. Yeah, and
okay.
And so basically, my evening turned into a Q Which Way book. And
Mm-hmm.
it was amusing to me because, so, oh, what's his name? What's his name? What's his name? It's important. His name is important.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I just thought you talked about numerology, and then the Q drops. Right? It'd be interesting to run numerology on some of the Q drops, like ones like 4412, and they start at 1, obviously, but they go up, I think, almost to 5,000. Most of them have a 4-digit number.
Oh, we do. It's a game, and you just I mean, you come up with interesting results. I mean, nothing like nothing that you would like, I don't know, deify. I mean, good God, I mean, no, it's just basically it's a game. It's kind of like playing dice. You never know what is going to come up in front of you, and sometimes it's relatives and sometimes it's not. But what was funny on this particular one is Dan Scavino posted on Twitter, and everybody, like, we play the game like, okay, Dan Scavino seems to have the habit of tweeting so that his time and date line up to certain Q posts. Okay. And
okay.
yeah, I think it's a lot of fun for him, but it's also a lot of fun for us too, right? Because when we see a Dan Scavino post, we're like, okay, let's see, 11:25. Okay, what does post 11:25 say? So we go to post 11:25. It says something. We're like, oh. And Dan Scavino is a guy who's in the know. He lives with Trump essentially, and so he knows what the fuck's going on. And
so what? Yeah, tell me this guy's name, or even text it to me at some point, because I want to put some of this. I'm putting the Mark Taylor and Ken Clement, and then
Yeah, Dan
Yeah,
Scavino.
this other guy, either it's okay. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I don't know if you can tell. I don't know how the signal is on your end, but I'm basically barely hearing your audio, and your picture changes every 5 minutes. So that's how
Oh.
crummy our connection is here. So maybe SaskTel is getting its revenge on us for posting to YouTube or whatever. But anyway, it's kind of crummy right now. So maybe try telling me one more time. I'll try writing this guy down.
His name is Dan Scavino.
Dan
Dan
Scavino.
Scavino. SCA.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'll run these by you, and you can make sure I have them down correctly.
Yeah,
And then just before we leave the numerology thing, I got a couple of I mentioned Q post 4144, and if you run numerology, correct me on this, but it ends up being like 4, right? If you run 444, that's 12, and then one more is 13, and then 3 plus 1 is 4.
That's the one
Or do you
way.
use the 13? I don't know my numerology. I don't know my numerology. If do you use the 13, or do you just keep adding up until you get a single digit, or how do you do that? Even I don't know. But if you do it all the way until there's only one digit, no digits to add up, 4144, I can get 4 out of it, or 13 if that's the correct way. I don't know which is.
Okay, well, there's a couple of different ways to do numerology, but there's a difference between numerology and gematria. Okay, so
okay, yes,
numerology is actually the simpler one. It's it's easy to understand. You can you line up your letters in a grid. So so you set up your matrices, and you go from 1 to 9. And I don't think it includes 0. It's been a while since I've looked at the graph. So 1 to 9, and then you line everything up: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right on up to 9, and then you come down, and then you go E, F, G, and so on, right? And so that you finally you end up with three sets, 26 letters in the alphabet, right? So, or it does, no, I think there's 2 left over at the end. Okay. So, anyways, so each letter that's under a column of a number, that's what it represents. So take like 6. Under 6 is FOX. So 666 is Fox in numerology. And people, there's memes out there that show that, to make like Fox is a evil organization or a satanic organization, and it's just like, wow, it's like great fun. And
666 is Fox in numerology. I'll have to run that past the furries and see what they say.
I know.
I know. Oh, I that guy Mike we were talking about. I think now I know why he put 666 in his Twitter handle or whatever. He probably already knows.
Yeah, it's the mark of the beast. It's just, but it's hilarious. It's actually just a. It's almost it's almost like a postal code for where we're at in the universe more than anything. So, and
yeah.
So so you got that, and then you got gematria, which is a little bit more complicated. In numerology, you add up the sets. So take, for example, when you use numerology in somebody's name. So you would take your first name, break it down to a single digit number, and then take your middle name, break it down to a single digit number, and so on and so forth on through your last name. And so that each word is broken down to a single digit. And then those single digits will are then used to in a more complicated chart to narrow down your personality. So, and Gematria is a little bit different. And there's a couple of different ways you can do Gematria. And so what I did with Dan Scavino's tweet, just because I was like curious, is I broke the groups down, okay? I did it the first way that I just described to you, okay? And broke everything down to its individual groups and added it all up. And when I added it all up, it ended up being 3660. Or no, actually, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Or am I? Oh no, yeah, it ended up being 3660 because of the way all the groups, because I had the time, which you add up as by itself. So the time added up to 36, and then the date added up to 60, and then bring those two together, and I had 3660. So I put that into the Q search engine. It brought me to a post, and on that post, it just says 96. And I was like, interesting. So I was like, okay. So I turned around and I went back to Dan Scavino's post, and and I did it a different way. I added up I broke both sets. I still kept them as a set, time and date, because they're two separate things, or describing two separate things, okay? And so I kept them separated, but I broke down. I added 3 and 6 together. That came to 9. And then added 6 and 0 together, and that came to 6. So 3660 brings me to a post that says 96. So I was like, okay, 96. This is where it turned into a Which Way book, and I kind of laughed. So I put 96 into the Q engine. And it takes me to post 96. And amazing how things make sense once you are asked a question. That's the entire point of this operation. It's up to you all to collect, archive safely, and distribute, safely in brackets, and distribute in a graphic that is in order with the crumbs dumps.
Yeah.
It will all make sense. Once it does, we look to you to spread and get the word out. Timestamps will help you validate authenticity. Your president needs your help. He wants full transparency for the great people of his country. Everything stated is for a reason. God bless patriots. Q. I was like, you've got to be fucking kidding. Now, what everybody's seen right off the bat is most people's habit when doing Gematria is they just use the timestamp of when Dan Scavino, which I kind of think is bullshit, because you're better off using the date, because the date is consistent. But I don't know, some people use the timestamp. So 11/25, which takes you to actually another interesting post. 11/25, FBI burning midnight oil. What was just released in the news? Warning, telegraphed. It's happening. Q. Okay. And yeah, shit is happening. and we know that it is. But yeah, that was my Which Way adventure with Q a couple of nights ago, and I was just like, yeah,
okay, cool.
That was pretty funny.
So I did want to ask you, so sort of a follow up to that. You were talking about assigning numerology with words and stuff. What is it called when you take like just a series of numbers and add them up and get? Is that a form of numerology, or is that something else? I know on the show Decoded, they took like the specifications of the height of the Statue of Liberty, and it's they kept getting all these. It was like something was 300 feet and 1 inch or something, and then it turned into they all got into like numbers that were divisible by 7 or something like that. And then my adding up of 41 44 being 13, and then if you add up 13 it's 4, stuff like that. Is that numerology at all, or am I just what is it?
It's a form of numerology. Generally, what they in the art world is that these numbers are derived out of nature. Normally, when you are like, okay, this is okay. When the Urantia book talks about beauty in art, okay, what the Urantia book is saying is that about like being able to appreciate art and its beauty. What they're saying is that art is when it is derived from nature, from from the mathematical equations of Michael's universe. When we derive our art out of that art is beautiful, and and for those who have spiritual potential, okay, probably going to piss some people off. Fair warning. You will know your spiritual potential by whether or not you find universal values and art based out of universal equations, beautiful or not. Seriously, that's what it comes down to. And yeah, I mean, and it's the spectrum's all over the place. You can't judge it by its color tones, because there's colors everywhere. It's art can really only be judged by how it all comes together in a balanced way. And you see it in like paintings that Leonardo da Vinci has done. This is why his paintings are like beautiful. You might not understand what's going on, but they're still like, you look at them, it's just like, fuck, that's a really good fucking painting. And but you don't. And Michelangelo stuff, the great classic artists, even Van Gogh is like, not all of his stuff. He was a messed up guy. He was caught somewhere between like, he was caught in a spiritual limbo somehow. And so there is stuff that he has done that is beautiful, and it is balanced and in nature. But then there's other stuff that he's done, it's just complete madness. And I guess in a way that can be beautiful. But yeah, it all has to be balanced and brought together. And something that is not balanced or does not have any cohesion, that's not art. That's just throwing paint at the wall and hoping for the best.
Okay. And one more thing, I guess, that in this series, Decoded, I don't know if you've heard of it. It's 2010, 2011, I think, is with Brad Meltzer. I don't know if you've heard of him either, but he had this series where he talked about the so-called missing cornerstone of the White House and the missing cornerstone of the United States Capitol building. And the thing I want to talk to you about right now briefly is that they did an episode on Bohemian Grove. And what I thought was interesting was they said the grounds for it is 2,700 acres, and the member list, I think, is 2,700 members. And if you do what I call numerology on 2,700, you get 9.
Yeah.
Just found that kind of interesting.
Yeah, I see. They take the numbers and they twist them. This also comes back to how you use a tool. Okay.
Yes. Yep.
I was listening to this guy briefly on YouTube, and he did bring up a good point. And I was like, yeah, sometimes it's good to listen to, some these atheists sometimes, because they do bring up good points. He said that it got into a bit of a religious discussion with him during one of his live streams. And so he ended up he went off the rails, and that's not, and apparently it's not something that he does in his live streams, not like us. And so anyways, he wanted to clarify himself and what he meant. And what he said, I was like, you know what? Makes sense. He was saying that he didn't have a problem with people can have their religion, but he said you gotta he said if you're gonna take a book and make that your plank, he said, then follow all of it and see how you really like that religion. He said, because he says don't be coming to me with your half full religion. He says, I've read your Bibles. He says, I know what they say. So he said, if you lived the way that your Bible actually tells you that you should live, you'd be horrified with yourself within a week.
Yeah, there was actually a guy who wrote a book, A Year of Living Biblically. It was, I haven't read it yet, but he tried to live according to the way the Bible said, and it was I can imagine how that was for him.
Yeah. So I guess I would clarify, because it made me think. It's and it's because it's the differences that seem to come up in your thread there, that these atheists were saying that there seems to be a difference between Christianity in North America, or in America, North and South, Central, all the way from top to bottom. There's a difference in Christianity than what they experience in Europe. So
yeah,
it's like, so it's like I constantly trying to think of another name to kind of describe the Urantia book, because that would probably be more described as my plank more than anything. I kind of look at the Bible as Shakespeare. It's got some nice poetry in it. And it's good to read it. It's a bit of a history lesson, no different than being forced to read Shakespeare in English, even though it's not the kind of English that we speak anymore. It's almost a foreign language to us. That's why it takes like fucking 3 months to read a Shakespeare play. It's because the teacher's constantly translating for you. And so view the Bible. I mean, but the thing is that the creators of the Urantia book, the power workers of this planet, the ones that the material creators, they were the ones that actually petitioned for this book to be written. And apparently the story goes that they petitioned for this book about 1,500 years ago. And it just took a while to get around to it. And of course, the timing has to be correct, because if it was written during the 19th century, it wouldn't have made it through the wars. And so it was started before World War II and finished after World War II. So this kind of made sure that the work got completed. And it was also completed at a time of relative peace on the planet. And so it could be distributed. And to the point,
the first three parts, for those of you who don't know, was I think parts 1, 2, and 3 were published or created or whatever in 1934 and 35, and then I guess part 4 sometime before 1955. The copyright on the book is 1955.
Yeah, that's when they completed it, and then they spent some time sorting it out. And oh shit, where was I?
When would it have first been offered for sale in North America?
I don't.
It was you can copyright something, whatever, 1955 or whatever, and then maybe it wasn't offered for sale until 5 or 10 years later.
I'm pretty sure by 59 it was in bookstores in Chicago, I believe, or San Francisco, one of those places. So it was in the bookstores on the West Coast by 59. And by that time there
59, okay.
Yeah. And of course there were like people picking it up. It mainly got a lot of attention when I think Jimi Hendrix was seen carrying a copy of the Urantia book, and people got curious about it coming up through that time in the 60s. Yeah. And who else? There was a few artists that paid attention to it. I think Johnny Cash was one of them. He was seen with a copy of the Urantia book in his travels. And what these power workers, they one of the specifications they had for this book, because they drew up like a series of specifications that they needed to, for a book to be presented on this planet, to be a revelation to the people of that time. Because quite frankly, the Bible is not cutting it today. I mean, we've gone so far in our knowledge that it's difficult for a 21st century mind to put any stock into that. Be it good, be it bad, it's very difficult. Most people don't even bother with the Old Testament anymore at all. Most people that consider themselves Christians pretty much ignore that, and that has been a trend that has been happening. Like I've seen it when atheists have argued with Christians and used the Old Testament, and that person just come right back and say, I don't prescribe to the Old Testament, I only prescribe to the New Testament. And then, of course, that would mean that the atheists would re-angle their argument, which was always interesting. That's when I really started to see that these people were like really like, you could see that they were taking things out of context when all they had for ammunition was the New Testament. I mean, let's face it. I mean, you want to you want to create an argument for a horrific God. The Old Testament gives you all kinds of material. I mean, tons of it. But then you want to have an argument for a horrific God in the New Testament? That argument gets very difficult very fast, because the New Testament is all about God's love. And that was the testament that was needed for at that epoch. And that epoch has passed. We are going through another epoch, so we need a new revelation of spiritual values and spiritual truths. People, we are designed and we are wired for worship. That is a fact. Think about that for a second. We are completely wired for worships. Animals do not have a desire, but humans do. So there needs to always be some kind of spiritual guide for us as a society to follow. And so, I mean, if you're into, so when it really comes down to it, it really comes down to choosing what you want to believe. And I've read the Urantia book from cover to cover. I really like the last part, the life and story of Jesus of Nazareth. I mean, that's my favorite part of the whole book. And if you have the freedom to choose what you believe, then I choose to believe the Urantia book. And all the other stuff is just fairy tales. And to me, that book makes way more sense, and it also puts things into perspective. It's like, where's our place in the universe? What is our purpose? What is our goal? What are we doing? And I've said this to people before, and the Urantia book seems to make it perfectly clear. We are here for one reason, for two reasons. We are here to create a character to complement the gifted personality from the Father. That is plain and simple. That is what we are here, to build a character to present to our eternal Father. And it takes work. It takes building habits, creating good habits for yourself, and and having. And our second purpose is to experience life, to be and to co-create an expression of God the Supreme in this local universe. That is the other purpose, because there's so many facets to God that we are the best vehicle for expressing those different aspects that the universe desires to see expressed. We are the best vehicle for that. And it's coming at the equation from both ends, okay? God divests himself into his creator sons. His creators go out and they create universes. And then those universes, the creator's son also makes his way down through his different creations until he gets to the lowest form of creation, and then brings that creation back up the scale. It's basically bringing new experiences back to the universe. This is why people say this life is a test. I've always laughed at that saying. It's like, if this was a test, then, when was I in class to learn? I didn't, did I? So it can't be a test, because a test implies that there was an education. There was no education. So the only logical conclusion is that this life is the education, the experience of building character, the experience of making conscious choices and making decisions as you go along. Because I used to say this to my kids all the time. I used to make my kids make decisions all the time. For some odd reason, it seemed important to me. And the reason why, and it is important, because that's actually what is expected of us. But what our Creator wants from us wants us to make good decisions, is what He wants us to do, just like any parent does for their kids. Because in the end, we will be out in the universe completely on our own, and we're going to have to make decisions. And we're going to have to make decisions based on what would Michael want to see done in this situation. Because it's like, it's his universe, and you serve your Lord. And if you serve him properly, you're constantly thinking, okay, what would he expect in this situation? You're not sure? You go get counsel from somebody who might know more than you. If they don't know, they kick it up the ladder until it gets kicked up the ladder all the way, until a decision is made, comes back down to you. That's how the universe works. They're not in a hurry. Not in a hurry at all, because shit's going on forever. Oh, you think you're going to die and end up in front of God? Maybe in 1,000,000 years. More likely 10 million years. I mean, you have to gain experience. You have to gain understanding. Because if you end up in front of God, God will devour that which he does not recognize, and recycle that shit back out into the universe. That's what God does. But you stand before God as a son of God or a child of God. You are fused with your thought adjuster. You are now God, and God sees himself in you. Then God will not devour you. God will welcome you and say, welcome home, my child. And then you dwell with God for a little while, and then after that, you go back out into the universe as God. And you work with other finilators in the universe. And you're all basically God. But you're your own personality and your own character. But the habits that we create here are the habits that will follow us on into eternity. That's why we have to make good habits here. It's like when you're raising kids. If you instill good habits in them while they're young, brush their teeth in the morning and wash their hands and shit like that, it's much easier to teach a child these good habits while they're young than to try to teach some teenager who thinks they know it all. So that's what this life is all about. It's developing good habits and building a character to complement the personality that's been gifted to you by God. And we're a special case because we're the planet that Michael did his dispensation on. Before Michael left, he basically asked the Father if everybody that had the ability to be indwelt by a thought adjuster, that they would be indwelt by a thought adjuster. Because before Michael's dispensation, before the crucifixion, thought adjusters inhabited people that really asked, that really had high spiritual potential. Not everybody was indwelt. more and more people were indwelt with thought adjusters after Melchizedek did his sojourn on earth because of his teachings. It attracted, people were able to attract the thought adjusters to themselves, but it required worshiping the one true God, as Melchizedek taught it. And the Jews, this is why the Jews, the Hebrews, were a feared race at that time, because they had the one God policy, the Yahweh religion, and they worshiped God zealously. And of course, that got the thought adjusters' attentions, and so a lot of Jewish people would get thought adjusters at that time in history. This is what set them out apart from other races, that not everybody in their race got a thought adjuster because it required worshiping one God. So this is why the Jews did very well. But the one God concept had spread far and wide by the time Jesus came, that the Jews were not these special people anymore, because thought adjusters were more commonplace in man at that time. But then after Michael left, the thought adjusters could automatically inhabit willing participants. This is why Jesus set up a policy, is like, he always said, just like, I knock, if you give me permission, I will come in. He wasn't talking about himself, he was talking about the thought adjuster. But because he fused with the thought adjuster, him and the thought adjuster were one, so he was one with the thought adjuster, so asking the thought adjuster, asking him in was the same as asking the thought adjuster in. Yeah, I know it's complicated, but you know what? The universe is complicated. So he set it up in such a way on this planet that it was so easy. And it was just, ask Christ into your heart, baptized in his name, boom, you were saved. Boom, thought adjuster. Actually, the baptizing part wasn't necessary, but, boom, automatically thought adjuster. If you were sincere in your repentance, the thought adjuster is going to get to work right away and get things going. If you were not sincere in your repentance, well, you gave the thought adjuster a seat to watch the world, and he try and help you out any way that he can. But if you're not sincere, you just become another memory that when this thought adjuster inhabits another intelligent willed creature on another planet, probably humanoid, whatever from now, then that person will remember you as a memory in some past life. And they'll be like, oh, in my past life, I don't know what the hell. I was somewheres. The place was all mixed up. There was this evil everywhere, and people were starving and dying. They are nightmares. This is what some other poor person's going to have to remember. Or, I don't know, maybe the thought adjusters don't leave this planet because it is such a horrific experience, and I don't think any other being on any normal planet would be able to handle the nightmare at all. Because normal planets aren't like this. I mean, this place is just, it's a complete nightmare, is what it is. But I think we're soon to get back on track.
Okay.
It might not, where we start is not where we're going to finish. And when generations from now look back at this time, they're going to wonder how the fuck we lived. The same way we wonder about our ancestors 100 years ago. You had to take a shit outside in -30? Yeah, I don't think so. Our cold water, 5 people used the same bath water? Gag much? I mean, this is shit that fucking they did 100 years ago. They warmed up a bathtub and 5 people bathed in it, one after the other. That'd be so disgusting. And yeah, how did they live? How did they not have disease? These are things that I wonder. It's like, we got to have vaccines for this. We got to have vaccines for that. It's like 100 years ago. What the fuck did they do? Why were they more immune back then than we are now? What happened between then and now that we are more susceptible? It's like, you know, these are questions that we should be asking ourselves. And, you know, be wondering why the human, I mean, why does it seem like people were smarter in the past than they are now? I mean, people memorized their multiplications back then. We don't memorize our multiplications now. I mean, shit, we got smartphones for that. So, what happened between then and now? Huh. Questions without answers. Any other questions?
Lots to think about. Yeah, I have some questions. I may pose some of them now, and then again the next time if it looks like we have a better connection, because this is, I don't know how you guys are hearing me, but I'm having a bit of difficulty hearing Crow. Maybe you're hearing him better. He's yeah, and then we just we're offline for just a second. It said trying to reconnect. So anyway, a couple of things that I thought about. We were talking about some dystopian novel that my sister had read, and it suddenly occurred to me that all that stuff, like 1984 and so on. Yes, that was a warning, but I wonder, it also seems to me like it was Illuminati social engineering. It's like they wanted us to focus on this stuff so it would happen, because most people don't know how law of attraction works. The Illuminati is hijacking the sheeple's law of attraction by promoting all this dystopian fiction.
Yes, they have, but I actually noticed that a long time ago, and at the time I was showing that it's not going to work, and the reason why it will not work is because they not taken into account morphogenic fields. Everything comes down to morphogenic fields. Sorry, people. When I seen, I think this was back in the 90s, I started to notice this with all the dystopia movies and what have you. And I was told at the time, I was like, yeah, a little voice said, just wait until they trigger the survival mechanism, the survival field of our morphogenic field. That is why it will not work, because they triggered our survival mechanism, because they overdid it. There was, like, I mean, if you look at all the horrific movies, they just went one right after the other, and yeah, it triggered it. And then what did people do? Everybody went in the exact opposite direction. I mean, they made so many movies about nuclear war and the fallout from it that it just, like, it triggered our survival instincts, and nobody wants to drop a nuclear weapon. They're just there for show. That's all they are for. And when you look at the natural disaster movies, all that did was trigger preppers. Look at all, it triggered a different, it triggered a different response to the survival instinct. I mean, all those natural disaster movies, all that just made preppers prep even more. I mean, you look at the United States. I mean, I think there's a number out there, like 1 in every 100 people have like an underground bunker or some kind of sand or some damn thing in the United States. It's like it's a pretty common thing. Such a common thing that there's actually food companies out there that make pails that store for 25 years. And they're selling that shit. Yeah. I mean, we're stupid in Canada. I mean, we have been spoiled so much by our government that we don't even know what to do. I mean, we wouldn't know what to do with a free society if, I mean, in New Brunswick, it's people find ways to get a welfare check before they'll go out to work. But living in New Brunswick is relatively cheap. So if you could get a $500 welfare check, you live pretty good. And that's basically how New Brunswick is. It's welfare central, and nobody really wants to do anything because there's no incentive to. Not really. I mean, people do better, but there's no industry either. But they don't want to leave New Brunswick either, so that becomes a problem. And yeah, I see the result of too much government interference, because if there was less government interference in New Brunswick, we would have had a car factory in northern New Brunswick a long, long time ago. Maybe some people heard of these of the cars there. They have the gull wing doors. Oh shit, I forget what the name of them were, but they were good cars. They made them in New Brunswick. It was going to be like the Tesla factory of its day. And government got involved and the whole thing went to shit. I think they sold like maybe 100 or 1,000 cars. And now if you get one of those cars, man, yeah, you hang on to it because they're worth a lot of money now because only a few of them were made. And you see, and yeah, and the corruption is everywhere in that province. Like, you think there's corruption in Saskatchewan? Oh, you ain't seen nothing until you go to New Brunswick. It's insane. Yeah, enough about that. I'll probably end up saying something I shouldn't.
Okay, I've got one more statement or observation, and then I think we'll have to wind it down. I don't know what's happened with the audio quality, but so the statement that or the realization that the world is not like I thought, or that I am not what I thought. There's a difference between certain people suddenly find this out at some point in their life versus others sort of always knew it. And we're getting to see kind of the interaction of those two kinds of people now live on the internet.
Those who get it and those that don't.
Those who know and those who don't, or those who just found out, or something like that.
Yeah, it's turning into quite the mixed bag out there now. The people that are awake and that have known what's going on for a while, they're just like, they're watching it all unfold and they know what's going on. People that are just finding it out, they're coming to the people that have known for a while, and they're telling them everything that they already know. I've already had to listen to some of those conversations this week where they're telling me shit that I already know, but I'm just like, oh, okay, yeah. You know, I just listen. I gotta let them have it. It's because, you know, they want to get it out, and they're better off stumbling it out to me, and then later they can, you know, they can fine tune their thoughts. You know what I mean? It's like, after we speak them out loud, we can rethink it later and just be like, you know, maybe I could have worded that better, or maybe I could have added this in for more clarity. It happens to all of us. And so I just let people talk. You just kind of, and then, oh man, I got to tell this story. This was so hilarious. So I'm out with a buddy yesterday morning, and we're doing Saturday morning coffee, having a talk, and then he's like, "Hey, you know, he's like, can you drive me over to Canadian Tire?" I was like, "Sure." So we take a spin over to Canadian Tire. He wants to go in. He wants to buy a jug of CLR. His wife wants to clean the sinks or something. And so as we're walking into Canadian Tire, a truck is driving, and it's like, boom, he ends up hitting my buddy. It didn't hurt him, but it's like and so I slam on the hood, and I'm like, what the fuck, buddy? So that was a conversation, you know, telling buddy to wake the fuck up, pay attention to where you're driving. So anyways, after that little kerfuffle, so now my buddy, he's already half pissed off now, okay? I mean, he just got bumped by a truck. So he's not happy, so he's cursing a little bit as we're walking into Canadian Tire. He's got a little bit of a limp, and I was like, you sure you don't want to sit down? He's like, no, I'm going to walk this shit off. I'm like, okay. So we walk in. He doesn't bother putting on his mask. So in solidarity, I didn't bother putting on mine. I'm not going to be an asshole to my buddy. So we start walking. We keep walking. And yeah, we walk right in. Fucking boom. We walk right over to the aisle that we're looking for. So we're in the aisle looking for CLR. I'm not seeing it. I find some other thing that CLR does, but we want the original. I'm not seeing it. And I don't think we're in the aisle 2 minutes, and this guy comes walking in, and he's like, yeah, can I get you guys to put on your masks? And I was like, oh, okay. So I put mine on. I wear one of those things around my neck. I don't know what the hell you call it, bandana, scarf, whatever. Anyway, so I put mine up. Took a second, no big deal, whatever. I don't give a shit. And besides that, I am on their property, so what are you gonna do, right? And but my buddy, he's already fucking pissed. Like, he just got hit by a truck. So fucking buddy looks at him and says, put on your mask. My buddy goes right the fuck off. He's like, why should I put on a mask? There's no pandemic. This is all bullshit. And, you know, and so I'm listening to this, and I'm just kind of laughing to myself, right? Because I know what my buddy's like, right? So he's going right off on Buddy, and then Buddy, next thing you know, Buddy's like, security. So security is on its way. So I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I'm going to have some more fun here. So I looked at Buddy, and I was like, hey, I'm looking for CLR. I don't see it here on the shelf. Can you help me look for CLR? And so he's still trying to talk to my buddy Don. My buddy Don, he's talking, but now I'm interrupting both their conversations, and I'm looking for CLR. So now the security guards come, and they've got this clusterfuck where one buddy's fucking beaking off, the other one is fucking trying to help me find CLR and be backed at the other guy because he's just one of those guys that wanted to argue back. And I'm like, hey, where's the CLR? So I got this guy. He's caught between looking for CLR for me and I'm beaking off at my buddy, and then the security guards show up, and this now it turns into so now buddy's trying to tell the security guards what's going on, and I'm like, hey, where's the CLR? And I'm not letting up on the CLR. And so next thing you know, you got this clusterfuck going on between me bugging Buddy about CLR, them wanting my buddy Don to leave, and then fucking boom, I find the CLR in the middle of all of this, and I turn to my buddy. I'm like, hey, okay, let's go. I got the CLR. So then we start walking away from the security guards and from Buddy in the aisle like they weren't even, like they were completely invisible to us. We just turned around, just walked away. And I don't even think, I can't even remember how we walked out of there. I think we went to the middle of the store and walked out. I don't know. We just walked away, just ignored them, and we weren't even walking fast. Anyways, we're on our way to the cash register. I turned to my buddy, and I was like, you know, they're not going to let you pay for this, so give me your bank card, wait out in the truck. But yeah, that was so hilarious, that whole clusterfuck in there. And I just shook my head. I'm like, really, people? Is this really, you know, I mean, they don't get paid that much an hour to put up with assholes like us. You'd think they would just ignore us.
Yeah, that's quite the story. Oh, we got, says Samson's watching here. Hey Samson, how's our audio? Can you comment how our audio is? Can you?
He's late to the party.
I can sort of hear Crow. I don't know how you can hear us, but I need some watcher feedback here. If you can tell us, yeah. I'll download this thing and post it on YouTube, and I guess I can kind of look and see where it is at various points and see if I can hear it. But
see if you can hear it.
This is the worst it's been in a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, but I think we're gonna. I don't know, unless you've got anything else, Crow. I'm feeling like maybe we should wind it up now.
I'm thinking we could wind it up. I don't think I can. There's nothing else I can think of. I'll probably think of stuff after, but okay. It's been all I can say is that it's been a busy week, and I don't know. The fences are still up in Washington, so as long as they remain up, I remain hopeful, because it's the only. I mean, it's a sign of how odd things are when you think about it, and as long as that remains up, it remains a symbol of just how odd things are. And I can't imagine the military this, long term. I mean, even if there is no plan, how are you going to want to, how can they look at that? I mean, really. I mean, they know what the Constitution says. I mean, they have to be disgusted. Yeah. They have to be completely and utterly disgusted with with what's going on. I mean, the people are locked out of their houses, their buildings. I mean, I thought the Capitol was supposed to be the people's house, right? I mean, yep. I mean, I can't see why the Americans are happy with that. I mean, we had them here. I think they tried this stupid shit on Parliament a while back, and people were like, what the fuck? It didn't stay up very long. I thought there was something there a while back. I don't know. Maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe I'm looking into the future. Who the fuck knows? Anyways. Crow? Come on. Didn't you hear it?
Okay, yeah. Yep.
So we might.
And I guess as far as the, I wrote the, whoops. Yeah. No question. I don't know if you, how you're doing it, but I wrote, my questions. I kind of have them from time to time throughout the week, and then I write them down in the book so I can ask them.
Yeah.
When it's, so I can ask them each week.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
The questions are helpful.
Okay. Okay, I think there we have it, folks.
So, do you want to do the sign off?
This is okay. Sure. This has been Peter,
and I am Crow, and this has been P&K with Q&A. Salute.
Q&A. All right. Peace out, folks.